The Foothills Trail is a nearly 77-mile national recreation trail that traverses the Blue Ridge Escarpment from Oconee State Park in the west to Table Rock State Park in the east. The trail primarily traverses South Carolina, but with a short, scenic section in North Carolina. In this video series, I'm going to try to turn the Foothills Trail guidebook into a video guide. The guidebook divides the Foothills Trail into 14 sections. This is not going to be a through hiking video / vlog. This is just going to be my attempt to show you the trail and virtually only the trail. This video in particular shows section A14 of the Foothills Trail, which starts in the west in Oconee State Park and continues to Jumping Branch Trailhead. This section is 4.6 miles with just over 700 feet of elevation gain and passes through hardwoods and pines along the Blue Ridge Escarpment with winter views of the Piedmont below. This is the parking lot for the Foothills Trail. Follow along this road for a bit. And you will see off to the right the beginning of the Foothills Trail. And at the beginning of the Foothills Trail, you have a handful of trails that you'll be following along. You're following the white blazes, but there will also be yellow blazes and black blazes for different trails that start here. And yeah, we are going to Table Rock State Park. 76.2 miles. Goes that way. All right. So this is the west end of the Foothills Trail at Oconee State Park. You're going to the east to Table Rock. At 0.4 miles, you cross Station Mountain Road. The trail goes right across, and you have the side trail to, I think, Hidden Falls. No, can't tell what's down there. Ah, here it is. So after you cross the road, you'll come the T intersection to Massey Knobs to your right. Foothills Trail and Hidden Falls goes left. We just did the first mile. Nice and easy. Basically done with the trail now. Beautiful little walking through this like little Piedmont area. Just side hilling a bunch. Of course, it's January 14th. So winter, not as green as this would be in spring, summer, or fall. But still, you get the green tunnel effect with the rhododendron and the evergreens and the mountain laurel. And that's pretty cool. At about 1.2 miles, you'll see this red mark on a tree. And that is the boundary of the Oconee State Park. There's no camping inside park boundaries. So just be aware of that. So the first 1.2 to 1.4 miles, no camping on this trail. Yeah, let's keep going. All right, at about 1.3 miles, the trail goes down these sets of steps, crosses over an old roadbed, And Hidden Falls Trail continues down the roadbed. Foothills Trail continues up towards the gate, but then immediately turns right and continues off into the woods. So at about 1.5, you come across this little thicket of recently planted white pines in this area. I'm guessing after the deforestation in the middle of the 20th century that happened through this area. I'm not exactly sure, but you definitely see some new types of trees with these white pines that you don't see some other areas. There are about 1.8 miles, and in the winter you have some decent views in the Piedmont below. A little more on that later in the video. You got a little bit of a climb in here. Some moderate, decent views. In about 2 miles, you cross this building and antenna right there. The trail just continues under it, and we've been climbing for a bit. At about 1.2 miles, you continue to climb where you get to some views of the Piedmont below. And the Piedmont is a gentle slope and plateau region between the Blue Ridge Mountains and the Atlantic Plain. So it stretches from New York in the north all the way to Alabama. So it's just this gentle slope of rolling hills between the Atlantic Plains, the flat land of the Atlantic Plains, and the high mountains of the Blue Ridge and Appalachian Mountains. In spring, fall, summer, I imagine you don't see much, but in the winter, you got to do some little view here as you walk along the trail. Alright guys, so come to 2.4. You have a little bit of climb there, and then you descent down a bit, and 2.4, you have your first bridge that you cross. The first of many. I'm going to try my best to record all these bridges, but no promises. Here's just a wooden footbridge. Really nice guardrails. We're at about 2.8 miles. And about 3 miles. Alright guys, at about 3.25 miles, you come to bridge number 2 on the Foothills Trail. Beautiful footbridge over this little ravine and creek. So here's the first water supply too. Ooh, got caught You just go back up. Very cool. Beautiful trail so far. Alright guys, so at about 3.45 miles, you come across bridge number 3. Another wooden footbridge over a little stream for some water source. And on we go. Alright guys, at 3.6 you come to this sign here on the trail. And there's a campsite right down below. Beautiful. Alright guys, at about 3.6 you'll come to a sign that I'll show. Splice it in, but you got this nice little campsite here with the water source being this little creek. So guys, there's a little bit of a climb out of that campsite, but what I'll try to do is put some mile markers at each campsite to the next campsite and the next major water source. I have no doubt I'll miss a few along the trail, but I'll do my best to capture them. 3.7 miles. The trail looks like this. And 3.7 miles. The trail parallels just above, side hills above this beautiful little creek and stream, and you'll hear it in certain sections, but you can tell there's water through the dense rhododendron over there. Mountain laurel. No, that's rhododendron. And so the Foothills Trail was hit pretty hard by Hurricane Helene, and you will see a lot of evidence of downed trees that you have to navigate, not only in the river corridors, but especially in the river corridors. And you'll have to do a lot of ducking and climbing over on the trail, though so far the trail has been very well maintained and some of the big logs have been cut. So yeah, again, 3.8 miles. I'm just walking along the trail. And you come to bridge number 4, 5, however, I've already forgotten. Alright guys, at about 4.2, just before 4.2, we come down to this down tree, see some blazes, and switch back up. And pretty shortly, we're going to come to some views of the Blue Ridge Escarpment. More on that later. So at about 4.3 miles, you come to some winter views of the Blue Ridge Escarpment. And that is a major geological feature that defines the Foothills Trail. It is the location where the Blue Ridge Mountains steeply drop off down to meet the Piedmont below. And it's a quick and abrupt drop, more than 1,000 feet, over 2 miles. So it creates kind of a wall. It's called the Blue Wall because over a very short distance, the terrain changes from about 1,000 feet at the Piedmont to over 3,000 feet in a couple of short miles. So it has the appearance of creating a wall. The escarpment itself is actually much younger than the Appalachian Mountains. It was formed about 200 million years ago with the breakup of the supercontinent Pangea. So when I believe African plate pulled apart from the North American plate, it created a deep fissure, which is the Blue Ridge Escarpment. That's why the Blue Ridge Escarpment is known as the Blue Wall, because of that steep 2,000-foot drop or climb over like 2 miles. So yeah, that's a little bit of the geology of the Blue Ridge Escarpment. So about 4.7 miles, you come to Jumping Branch Trailhead. This is the end of section A14 and the beginning of A13. The next section will be 1.4 miles.